The NFL has a QB crisis. And why is this an issue? Because it's a quarterback-driven league, and right now they're driving people away from the TV screen. It is not a good product that they are putting out, certainly in prime time. Now, it's reflected in the betting markets. Here's all you need to know. There are currently 2 quarterbacks in the entire NFL that the betting market trusts. Who are those quarterbacks? Josh Allen, the favorite to win the MVP, and Patrick Mahomes, 5-1 to still win that award. That's it. End of discussion of the quarterbacks in the betting market that the public actually values. Now you go, well, what about Tom Brady? What about Aaron Rodgers? Those guys are 3-3, and they're off to their worst statistical starts of their entire career. And by the way, it's not a good business model, NFL, if you're relying on a 45-year-old and a 38-year-old who's the back-to-back MVP of the league to drive the league. That's not a good business model. It would be like if Hollywood wanted to rely on Rocky Balboa movies to still drive their product. Oh, by the way, Creed 3 is coming out later on. So that tells you everything you need to know. They're still relying on the same business model in the 70s. So that is not a good practice. So who's next, you say? Well, that we actually trust in the betting market. I think you look at Lamar Jackson. We talked about him. He was 20-1 to win the MVP before the season started. He looks like the MVP for 3 quarters. Don't watch the fourth quarter. It's an absolute train wreck what's happening with the Ravens and Jackson in the fourth quarter. Joe Burrow, get him offensive line help. He was in the Super Bowl a year ago. Are people banging down the doors to bet the Bengals? No. Guess who's the favorite to still win the division? It's still the Ravens. They still don't trust the Bengals. You can get plus money over $2 to bet the Bengals right now. That's how much the public still doesn't trust Joe Burrow and the Bengals going forward. Justin Herbert. I mean, the guy's got the big arm. You look at him, he's one of the shorter favorites to win the MVP. He's now down drifted a little bit to about 16-1 in the marketplace here for Herbert. And by the way, did you watch him Monday night in prime time? How many more throws can that guy miss? So I know we're all waiting on Justin Herbert to be the guy. He's still not the guy. Nobody trusts him in the betting market. And if you watched Monday Night Football, has there been a quarterback, a singular quarterback, that the stock has dropped on one player more than Russell Wilson in 6 weeks? They want to put the guy in the Hall of Fame. Let Russ cook. If you watch what you're eating, you're getting sick to your stomach. Take them off of prime time. I don't want to watch the Broncos anymore. Put them in the 4 o'clock window and bury them for a while until Russ starts to figure it out again. Because that product you saw on Monday night was not appetizing for the general public. And then you go, okay, well, there's 2 guys here that you go, well, the Vikings are 5-1, right? So I got to trust Kirk Cousins. Let me ask you a question. If you have a 50-1 ticket on Kirk Cousins to win the MVP, on a 5-1 football team that's leading their division by essentially 2.5 games, is there a quarterback that you're less enthused to see that ticket cash in Kirk Cousins? Nobody's buying that. Nobody's believing that Kirk Cousins is still going to win the MVP. Nobody trusts him. And that's why they're only a $3 favorite to win the division, and the Packers are still playable at over $2. So, again, you're backing on quarterbacks here that nobody trusts in the betting market. Let me give you these guys were either number 1 or number 2 picks in the entire NFL draft when they came out. And by the way, 2 of them, number 1 overall picks, are going to be featured on Thursday night. The league should be celebrating. King Kyler potentially against Jameis Winston. Oh, my. Who wants to watch that? I mean, that's an awful product. Baker Mayfield, have we had enough of the Baker Mayfield experience? Carolina already has. And by the way, his backup is Sam Darnold. He was the 2nd overall pick. That guy sees ghosts. Okay, how about 2 guys that were number 2 picks from the same school? Carson Wentz, he's on team number 3 in 3 years. The Carson Wentz experience might already be over in D.C. And then Trey Lance, we don't know about Trey Lance, but what you saw from him last year looked awful. And then in week 1, they couldn't beat the Bears with Trey Lance. This is the future of the NFL. And by the way, if you keep putting some of these guys, they're getting exposed in prime time. So in a quarterback-driven league, if these are the quarterbacks that you have driving it, you might drive it right off the cliff.
Well, you know, a couple things you did say I want to get to. One, about Russell Wilson. He's going to make the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
You don't think he's a Hall of Famer?
Well, he won a Super Bowl.
Forget the Super Bowl. That doesn't matter to me. But Eli's got 2. He doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame.
He's getting in.
Well, then he's in. Jim Plunkett should be in.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Well, all I'm saying is, though, Russell Wilson has done so much, but the problem is he's fallen off of a cliff right now. That's the biggest problem. And I don't see him getting any better. By the way, I love the fact that Denver stuck with him for another 6 years now.
And that's the problem here. Again, look, in the betting markets, too, they still believe the general public. that the Packers are going to turn it around. We talked about that last block with Steve McAdoo, and that the Buccaneers are going to turn it around. But again, statistically, those two guys are having the worst starts of their NFL careers. Again, a 45-year-old and a 38-year-old. So I'm just looking at it and I'm going, all these high picks, number ones and number twos, littered across the league. What are you getting for your product? I don't know if this is because of preseason. Look, nobody wants to watch preseason football. I don't want to watch it either, right? But right now, these guys that are not getting reps don't look like they're ready for prime time. So the only quarterbacks that we trust are Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. That's it. And then again, there's a cliff after that chasm right there.
Few things. First of all, I would never bet another running back to win the MVP. Look at the list we had right now. There was not even a running back within the area code.
No.
Second, I don't even understand how Lamar is only 850 right now. He should be much higher with the way the Ravens are playing. The other thing is, I think Josh Allen at plus 130 is a good bet. He's winning this MVP. Mahomes throws a pick in the last drive of the game. That's what people, in terms of voters, are going to kind of look at. I think this is clearly, in my opinion, Josh Allen. Jalen Hurts, look, I can make the argument for him. Mm-hmm. But I think the narrative is that Buffalo is the best team in the NFL. They've got a come-from-behind win against Baltimore. They were down, 17 or 20-3 in that game?
Yep.
You win at Kansas City.
Well, that's the one, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going up against another MVP in Patrick Mahomes. So I like Jalen Hurts, by the way. And I said this, when he got drafted coming out in the second round out of Oklahoma, I was like, oh, no, because they had Carson Wentz at the time. And I was like, oh, that's the better quarterback. And it's playing out that way, plus 450 in the market right now for Hurts. But I don't know that the betting public still looks at him and goes, he's the best player in football.
I would agree with you. And I think even though Hurts right now is just 2 interceptions, he just has 6 passing touchdowns. When you look at what Josh Allen's been able to do, he does have 4 interceptions, but I think he's got 17 passing touchdowns. The difference is the perception of Buffalo. Mm-hmm. When you look at the Buffalo Bills, this is their Super Bowl, in my opinion, to lose. If they play Philly today, they're a 3-point favorite. I'll tell you right now, I'm on Buffalo.
I totally agree. And again, when you look at the overall Super Bowl odds, you can understand, again, why these are correlated.
Yeah.
The quarterbacks that we trust versus who's going to actually win the whole thing. And that's why the Chiefs right there at 8-1, Bills at plus 275. Obviously, they're longer odds than the Chiefs because you're in the same conference. If the Chiefs were in the NFC, right now they would be where the Eagles are. It wouldn't be the Eagles as the second betting favorite.
By the way, if the Buffalo Bills win game number 20 of their regular and postseason performance this year, you realize Josh Allen is going to surpass Jim Kelley in Western New York overnight?
What? Holy man. That's hard to do for a guy that got to 4 Super Bowls. Didn't win any of them, but got to 4.
All I'm saying is when you look at that, how great those Bills teams were, Bruce Smith, one of the great players of all time. Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, Jim Kelley, Tasker on special teams. They had so many great players. But I'm telling you right now, Josh Allen he's right there as one of the top 5 players in the NFL. This team is playing at a level where you sit there and go, okay, they overcame all the injuries that they had on defense. They've been able to overcome that. This team is just – it's going to be tough. And I don't know if it was you who said it to me. Somebody else said it to me. It was more important for Kansas City to have home field than it was for Buffalo in a potential postseason matchup. I
totally agree with that. It's going to be really hard to go to Orchard Park and get that win if that's exactly how it plays out. But again, in a quarterback – league where all the eyeballs are on QBs. Look, we'll find out about Kenny Pickett right in Pittsburgh. We'll find out about Tua Tagovailoa. I hope he's healthy and we can finally figure out who he is. All right. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky was the 2nd overall pick. You can go up and down the rosters of these NFL teams, and there are much more misses than there are hits. And that's why they are drafted so highly, because they are desperate for quarterback talent in this league. They know that's what they need. It's what moves the meter. It's what moves the gambling public. That's who we trust. That's who we bet. And right now, we trust 2. It's Josh Allen. It's Patrick Mahomes. And then we hope for a lot of the other guys.
I think you brought up a great point. Even Aaron Rodgers right now, the way this team is going, they just don't seem to have it going together in the right direction.
No, they don't. So, again, we'll see how the Packers here, over $2 betting, underdog now to win their own division. Dak Prescott, by the way, 4-2 for the Cowboys. He's won 0 of those games. And, by the way, Cooper Rush had more passing yards last week than Jalen Hurts. Just throwing that out there.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.